Hi, I'm Jami.
And I'm Hugo.
Welcome to No Particular Place to Go, where two middle-aged guys on opposite sides of the Atlantic talk rubbish about cars, car culture, ownership, track days, modifications, and pretty much anything else related to cars. We're not professionals, as you'll shortly hear, but a big part of our lives revolve around all things with four wheels. Thanks for joining us. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for listening. This is part 2 of our interview with car YouTuber Zygrene. Should also say my good friend Fenton, who's also my neighbor, and he stalks me sometimes through my window. But we'll talk about that later, or maybe that's off mic. Anyway, we're back. We were just on part 1 diving into some of the downsides of being a YouTuber, some of the things that people don't see, the hard work that goes into it. I have so much more to ask you about your YouTube channel. So let me take a look at our list of questions here. Speaking of dark side, I know you and I have talked about this a lot. I read the comments in your videos because I watch a ton of YouTube, I should say. I probably subscribe to like 60, 70 different YouTube channels. I watch a ton of YouTube. There's only a handful of channels that I actually read the comments, because I love to hear people's deeper knowledge on the topic. And the way that your YouTube channel is set up is usually one or two particular cars. And so if it's a car I find interesting, it's like, well, I want to read the comments and see what people think or have to say or know about this car that I may not. Be like, oh, you know, the 2006 model of that didn't have that issue, or it was way worse. You don't want that year. But one of the things that drives me crazy, and I'm not even the creator of it, but is some of the dumb ass, just ridiculous, offensive, irritating, stupid comments that you get from people.
Sometimes racist too.
Really?
Oh yeah. There's everything.
So they're making fun of you for being an Asian guy.
Oh yeah. Oh my I get
God.
plenty of those.
Well, then I see ones where it's like, this rich dude's parents bought him the car, but what does he know?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then all the people who were so upset when you sold your second gen BRZ.
Oh,
I don't know
there's
why.
A whole thread on that, like on the 86 or BRZ forums.
I mean, they just really felt like you stabbed them in the back. I thought it was really funny. Like, it was very dramatic, and I was like, damn, Fenton's got more influence than he knew.
Yes.
People are really upset.
I gotta be careful, man. Like, it's someone. If there's one particular person who kept trying to like dig into it more and more with every comment and post. I was like, if this guy finds out where I live, I might be done for.
Oh shit! Really? Like, he went that deep?
Okay, not actually. Probably not actually.
But
like,
it was weird.
Digging in.
That's weird. So how do you just have naturally a thick skin? Like, this stuff doesn't bother you? Or have you built it up over time? Or you're in the comments, I should say. Like, you're not someone who's like, I never read the comments.
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
in your comments a lot. You're engaged. I'm assuming you even lined up some of the next cars to review through it. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with this stuff?
I mean, I will say it is something that I did have to build a thick skin over time, but thankfully I built that thick skin very, very quickly.
Okay.
If you can't do that as a YouTuber, you're not going to do so hot.
Okay.
Like, it's the internet, man. It's a cesspool. The comments of any YouTube video, pretty much like there's going to be some not so great stuff in there.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact of life, unfortunately. It's human nature. So, you know, my first few videos, you know, sometimes I would get a nasty comment and be like pretty annoyed by it. I could feel my heart rate going up and whatever. But then, like, you know, thankfully it didn't stop me from doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And eventually I was just like, who cares? Like, it's just some random person probably in his mom's basement, like just typing away on this keyboard, trying to make himself feel better about himself.
We're recording this in my mom's basement right now, actually.
Exactly.
So thanks, Mom. Do people ever send you direct messages that are nasty or stupid or?
Not that I can remember from recent history. Like, all of the DMs I get, like, which is usually on Instagram or through my Zygrene at Gmail account, which are both linked on my, you know, YouTube page.
Yeah.
They're overwhelmingly positive.
Okay.
Actually, I can't even remember the last time I got like anything hateful there.
Okay.
Which I'm very thankful for, because like you kind of alluded to, like, that is how I get the vast majority of my opportunities to keep finding cars and owners to connect with and film.
That's awesome. And I mean, you've traveled obviously more than just LA, but you seem to be going down to LA on a semi-regular basis to drive cars now, which is fantastic. You're getting press cars, which I want to come back to in a second.
Oh, yeah.
You've also gone out to Texas and I think the East Coast to drive cars.
North Carolina. Yeah, that was a great trip.
That's like, that was was it the generations of M5 that you drove?
Those videos bombed. Like, they didn't do well, but I had a great time filming them. Okay. And I made some really good friends. Steven and Mark, shout out to those guys. Like, they basically hosted me and Kevin Jabal.
Wow.
And, it was just fantastic. I would not trade that experience for anything.
That's one thing that it reminds me, the car community, it can be like, people want to tear down each other's builds and nastiness and rumors and whatnot, but also the car community can be just amazing sometimes.
Yeah.
And like the stories that really get me, you see this semi-regularly where it's a kid or maybe even an adult who's into cars, and often, unfortunately, they might be dealing with like a terminal illness or something that keeps them from engaging in the hobby the way they want to. Mm-hmm. And then you see people that go, I'm fortunate enough to own this thing, whether it's a car or motorcycle, whatever, but I own this thing that other people appreciate, and I can share it with them.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean that I have to let them drive it. It doesn't mean I have to, like, put on a sideshow in front of them. Just seeing it brings them joy. And then you see people turn out in droves for that. You see that all the time. And I think that's so amazing.
Yeah. It's like everyone most people probably have a full-time job that's just like, they're just doing it just so they can put food on the table, But at the end of the day, it's like, outside of that, you have to have something that keeps you going.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I kind of look around nowadays, and at least from my perspective, it seems like a lot of people don't have hobbies or things that they really like to do besides just be on the couch after work and watch Netflix or whatever. More power to you if that's your hobby. That's fine. But I think with the car community, it just brings me so much joy that so many people can share such a deep passion for something. And it's like an escape from the real world in a lot of ways. And I was just telling a coworker the other day who found out I had a YouTube channel. I don't think he's really into cars. I don't think, but he like pinged me on a Saturday night. Right. And he was just like, he was like, what's your YouTube channel? I want to check it out. And so I sent it over to him. He's like, a few days ago, actually yesterday, he was like, you get to drive some really cool cars, man. That's really cool. And I was like, my immediate response to him was, after working at, this tech company for 60 hours a week, this is the only thing that keeps me going. If I didn't have this, it would be game over.
Oh, man. It's amazing that you have the outlet. I think you're right. Like you said, there are a lot of people who don't have a productive outlet outside of like work and maybe like taking care of the kids. It's like, that's all that's in my life. And obviously, like, having children, fantastic thing, but it's a lot of energy and it can be a lot of work. And so I think cars, like a lot of other hobbies, it's for you. It's for you to appreciate and enjoy. Yeah. But then the fact that you get to, that there are other people who also appreciate, you get to share it with them is really cool.
That's the part that, honestly, it keeps me going for this car hobby thing. Like, I would do this regardless of whether I had an outlet to share it with people. But because I have an outlet to share it with people, and I'm not changing people's lives, but I've gotten many people come up to me, whether I'm reviewing their car or whether it's just at a random track day and someone comes up to me. So many people say, I bought X, Y, and Z car because of you. And I'm like, whoa, that's actually insane. That is mind blowing. Why would you listen to any bullshit that comes out of my mouth? Like, I'm just some random dude who just puts a GoPro on his forehead. But it's like really like flattering, and it makes me feel great, and it makes me want to do this more. And I think like the integrity part of what I do is like, I don't sugarcoat anything. And I think that's why people tend to trust my opinion on stuff.
Yeah.
And that's something I would never kind of, what's the word, sacrifice, because that is part of my brand that I think I've built for myself.
Well, it's like, again, I mentioned, I read the comments, and I've noticed this a lot recently. I mean, I swear I'm not just totally trying to bump up your ego, but like I see it a lot that people are going, nobody else does this. I've seen even more frequently people going, best car YouTube channel. And I'm like, dang. But I think it's because, one, like, you don't do clickbait. You're not sponsor heavy. And then it's no BS. You're not like, well, here's the history of M Motorsport, or here's the history of Porsche, blah, blah, blah. You're like, look, it's just me, this car, and I'm driving it, and I'm going to tell you how it is.
I'm just some random dude who is about to drive this car for 30 minutes, and it's just going to be a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Do with that information what you will.
Yeah. It's not like overly produced. You don't have, you don't sit down and talk to the chief engineer or try and pitch them on the lifestyle. I think the other thing is you have comparisons that are valid, but they're not obvious to people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I never would have thought to compare those two. It's like, well, they're in a similar price bracket.
Dude,
Why
it's
wouldn't
so
you?
funny because I was filming with Kevin this morning and he brought up the same thing because I got an offer to review this G42 BMW 230i M Sport, right?
Okay.
And it's special because it's an M Sport. It's got the LSD, the M suspension, M brakes, whatever. And then I also got my other close friend, his name is also Kevin. He offered to let me review his M340i.
Okay.
Right. And I somehow in my head was like, that's a great comparison idea. And, and Kevin Jabal was like, before we started filming this morning, he was like, how are you going to pitch this? And he was like, I love how you do comparisons. I wish I just want to learn about how you think about putting the context for these comparisons that no one has really thought about.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, look, it's actually pretty simple. Like neither of these cars is a true M car. It's not an M2, not an M3.
Yeah.
But they both have the driver-focused components, the LSD, the whatever, adaptive suspension and whatever.
Yeah.
And so the question is, if you don't want something as hardcore and maybe compromised on the street as a full M car, but you still want some level of fun and engagement while still having the comfort and luxury and whatever, which car's better? One is $47,000, one is $64,000. They both have back seats, which do you get? That's all there is to it. And he was like, that's crazy. That's so good.
It's a very valid comparison. And I mean, just because two cars might be like, one has a 4-cylinder, one has a 6-cylinder, or that one's 10 years older. It's like, look, people aren't always comparing them on totally rational reasoning.
Yeah.
It's not like the only competitor to an M3 is a C63 or a Giulia Quadrifoglio.
Right.
I guarantee there's many, many other cars. Someone might be like, well, do I get an M3 or do I get X3M? I think to a marketer, they're like, well, they're totally different segments.
That's a very valid comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, they're both M cars. They're both very powerful, both very capable. One is obviously more utilitarian. The other one is more like low slung to the ground and all that. People make that comparison. It might not be obvious, but people do.
Yeah.
So one of the things, talk about your channel's reputation, I think that has led to, and the reception amongst audiences has led to press cars, which like, as someone who doesn't get press cars, I'm like, wait, hold on. So manufacturers are going to ship you one of their new cars and let you have it for X number of days and say whatever you want about it. And I first remember when you first started getting some Toyotas and some Mazdas. You recently had a Maserati. Two Maseratis. Yeah. One is a freaking MC20, which is kind of insane. I have a ton of questions here. One, what was the very first press car that you got? Two, how do they find you? How do they reach out to you? Mm-hmm. And then what is that relationship like? Like, do you have to watch what you say? What are the limits on what you can do with a car?
Really good question. And also I think it's funny, like, because we're neighbors, right? And I generally park the press cars on the street. The number of pings I've gotten from you, dude, is that your press car? And it would just be like, I don't know, like a Mustang or something. But it's always so obvious that it's like that's the press car because you don't see that on the street. And then we would just go for a drive and whatever, and it'll be fun.
Although there is somebody with a red Nismo 370Z.
Yeah, he lives just like across the street.
Oh yeah, a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the 370's been out of production, but like a number of years ago, I thought that was a press car that you got.
Oh,
but it's actually our neighbor's car.
Yeah. I got to hit him up. I got to meet him one day because I would love to review that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of nice cars in our neighborhood. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But so I guess to answer your actual questions, my first press car I think was in 2022, late 2022, and it was an ND3 Grand Touring. Sorry, ND2 Grand Touring.
Was the blue one, right?
Blue, yeah, RF.
This. Okay.
I was stoked. Just the concept of getting a press car was insane.
Yeah.
The fact that they brought it to my house with a full tank of gas and didn't require basically any gas to be in the car when I returned it a week later. Amazing. But it wasn't something that just fell in my lap by any means. I had to actually apply for press car access. And it wasn't like, oh, this is something that just car reviewers get. It was more like marketed as a influencer thing. I hate that word, but it was just
hey, people have bought cars off your videos.
I guess I'm influencing somehow.
You're an influencer.
I'm ruining lives. But it's through this company called Drive Shop, right? They're a fleet management company for a lot of different manufacturers. Not all manufacturers. There's multiple fleet companies that work with different manufacturers, but they're one of the prominent ones in the U.S. And they've for the past 3 years and probably going forward, I don't know how long this is going to be, but they worked with Mazda as their influencer brand.
Okay.
So if you're someone who is on social media, you do have a decent presence, you can apply, to get access to Mazdas. And then once you get granted that access, you can basically submit a form at any time. Almost any major airport in the US or any major city, they'll be able to accommodate.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been Mazda ever since 2022, or probably even before that. I don't know if they're planning to change that at any point, but that was my first foray into press cars. And then after that, I kind of started making relationships with some of the Drive Shop folks, and just the fact that I was featuring press cars on my channel started getting a little bit of attention from other manufacturers. So I think a few months later, I got access to Toyota and Hyundai and Lexus and whatever. I think at this point, I have approval from Mazda, Toyota, Lexus, Hyundai, Ford, Nissan, BMW,
Subaru,
Maserati, Subaru. Yeah, the Subaru TS and the BRZ TS and the WRX TS, and probably a few others. I don't know, but
do they come to you?
Some of them do, which is great. I think I can't remember which. The Maserati one came. That one just dropped in my lap somehow. I was like,
of all the brands, the Maserati one, right? That's awesome.
But then other ones, I would reach out. I put in a good amount of work, reaching out to the manufacturer press contacts. To ask for access. And, I have to show my YouTube analytics and kind of what I do, example videos that I would make.
Yeah.
And, I got ghosted a few times. I got denied. Actually, I got denied by Honda of all companies,
Come
right?
on. I mean, you're a Honda fanboy. What's
your
up?
biggest supporter.
You've sold more S2000s than anybody out there.
And Civic Type Rs and Type S's. But yeah, I got denied by them. I don't know why. I do have access to Acura though, so I don't really know what's going on there.
Okay.
But regardless, I haven't gotten a press car in a couple months.
Okay.
It's kind of that's the depressing part about all this. As great as having press cars is, because you get to drive it around for free for a week basically.
Yeah.
There's not that many press cars now that I'm interested, because they're all new cars, right? It's just the state of the car market now. It's man,
everything
is just not very fun.
This is like this is threatening to become a no particular place to go theme.
Yeah.
Old cars over new cars. And
yeah,
I'm not gonna, I swear I'm not gonna monologue on this because I probably already have and will in the future. But there's a lot of reasons why old cars are better than new cars. I'm with you. I often, as someone who is always looking on Auto Tempest and Facebook Marketplace and even Craigslist sometimes, like what's out there, what's interesting, what you can get for XYZ money, what's depreciated well.
Right.
And among new cars, there aren't really that many that make me go, ooh, if I had $1 billion in my pocket, I would immediately go out and get blank.
Yeah, I've driven many, many more new cars in the past couple years than I had in the prior several years.
Yeah.
And I can maybe count on one hand how many that I would actually spend my own money on.
Can you say whatever you want with these cars? You're like, the Mazda CX-3 is hot garbage, and you'll still get one?
So how it works, through the fleet management companies like Drive Shop, and then like Page One is the other one I work with.
Yeah.
I can say whatever I want.
Okay.
And they don't give me any guidelines. And the thing is, like, if I say something that pisses off the manufacturer and they don't want to give me cars anymore, so be it. I don't give a rat's ass.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it because that's not what my viewers want to see. Like, it doesn't just like not benefit, like it benefits me, to be honestly, because like my viewers can see right through the bullshit.
Yeah. I'm sure. And I'm sure some people are going, Fenton's paid to say XYZ. And no, not at all.
I mean, I guess they give me a tank of gas, but like, is that really life changing?
Hey, I mean, California, that's like $300.
That's fair.
So
that's fair. But I work from home. I like a lot of times I'll like get through a quarter tank and then give it back a week later.
Oh, so you got to drain that tank before they
I
pick
know.
it up.
I know.
That's why you got barrels of like 91 octane.
I'm just going to turn the car on and just let it sit there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I think if you're listening to this or you watch Zygrene on YouTube, you probably heard the name Chris Harris. And I got a lot of respect for Chris Harris. Obviously, fantastic driver, really, really entertaining guy. But I've got a lot of respect for him because he had no problem calling out first Ferrari and then Lamborghini. And he was blacklisted by Ferrari for a number of years. I don't know if I know Lambo wasn't happy with him. I don't know if they actually did anything. But the first one, Ferrari, he had an article, I think it was in Jalopnik, and I think it was titled How Ferrari Spins, something like that. But he basically called Ferrari out and said, whenever we do a group test or a test of a Ferrari sends a team of engineers. They'll have sometimes backup sets of tires, always super, super fresh. The engineers are there. They'll tell us how to get the best numbers out of them, blah, blah, blah. Nobody else does that. If they're doing a group test and they've got the Ferrari, the equivalent Lambo, Aston, whatever, the only car that comes with the engineering team to make sure you're getting the best out of the car is Ferrari. And so he called that out. He kind of laid that out there. And then Ferrari said, all right, no more press cars for you for a couple of years.
That confuses me a little bit because it's like, does the outlet or journal or whatever magazine, are they saying you can't do that? Like you can't bring a team of engineers? Because if Ferrari's doing it, nothing is stopping like McLaren or Lambo from doing it. So
That's
I think, put your best foot forward, make sure the car's in good shape. Obviously don't like behind the scenes tune the damn thing to make an extra 100 horsepower. Yeah. Right. But as long as it's like factory condition to the best of its ability, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I could see it either way. It's like, hey, you could say, look, Ferrari, this is acceptable, and everybody else, you should do the same. Of course, they have to pony up the cash and bring the people to do that. Or you could say, this is not acceptable. Nobody's allowed to do this.
Right.
And then I think the reasoning behind it is also two ways. One, you could say, look, I want to make sure that you're presented with the real deal. Like, this is what someone would buy in the showroom for us, which is box fresh. And we have press cars, which get beat to death by journalists. So we want to make sure. On the other hand, you could say, Ferrari, like, are you doing that when I pick up my car? Or like when I take my privately owned car to the track? It's like, it's kind of apples and oranges. It's also interesting. I think if you go back to like the 60s and 70s, like famously for the domestic car magazines, Car and Driver and Motor Trend, their cars would get supplied and they were absolute ringers. You get a car from GM, it's rated at 300 horsepower. The one that Car and Driver got, no, that was a 370 horsepower car.
Oh,
and they were absolute ringers. So I could see it, like you said, I could see it both ways. But I think from a consumer's perspective, you don't get to get behind the wheel of these cars a lot. So you really rely on what the magazine says and reports. You would like it to be as objective and fair as possible.
I agree. I think the way I see it is like if the magazine or whatever, if the outlet doesn't have a rule against that and a manufacturer does do that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Either make a rule or, whatever. But as long as you disclose that information when you do the review or the video or whatever, and just be like, hey, XYZ manufacturer only had one set of tires, no engineers. The other manufacturer had whatever. And then like do with that information what you will. Here's the numbers, here's the results. So be it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's better to just be transparent. Like you may like it or may not, but you could let consumers decide what they want to do with that information.
Right.
Okay, so YouTube's, we were talking about people saying, hey, you're sponsored. And you have had in the past, you've had some sponsor videos. I remember seeing one for air compressor, which was random. I was watching an older one the other day. I was like, oh, air compressor. I know you've told me that you've had some pretty wild sponsorship offers. Like, what are some of the like most ridiculous, memorable, or just no way in the hell would I do this that you didn't actually take that you've received?
There's only one answer I can possibly give to this question because there's one that just stands head and shoulders above everything else.
Children, please cover your ears.
Yes, please cover your children's ears. Auto blow.
Auto blow. That's a something after you wash your car to take the water off the car. Is that right?
If only.
This was a different type of blow.
A different type of blow and a different type of auto, not of the mobile type.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so were they going to send you a free auto
I
blow?
would have to go back and check because this is a few years ago. But yeah, they wanted to send me like a free contraption and just have me review it. I guess on YouTube, which is not acceptable by YouTube policies in any sort of way.
You get demonetized.
Yeah. So I respectfully ghosted them.
Oh, man.
But I did get a really good chuckle out of it.
That's well, opportunity has passed. Auto blow, auto blow is probably like AI powered now, and I don't even want to go down that path. I'm sorry, I even mentioned that. We'll keep going. So obviously, like pissing off your audience or your viewers or commenters is not a positive thing. But are there sometimes things that you hold back or wish you could say in response to comments or feedback? Or how much do you edit yourself essentially in all of your interactions, whether it's in a video or a comment or on Instagram, etc.?
I mean, I think my approach now is whenever I see a really negative comment, I don't even respond.
Okay.
It's not worth my time, my energy. Most of the time when I do respond, to try to use logic to kind of show my point. Yeah. If I disagree with that comment, it doesn't change their mind. They usually just get more ticked off. They make it even more ad hominem. Like it's just a fruitless endeavor. And what I notice, which I think is hilarious, and I'm very appreciative and thankful for this, is usually I don't have to say anything because my actual like supporters or subscribers or fans will just destroy that person.
That's good.
And so I have this kind of like little army behind me that it's like a automatic self-fixing or auto-leveling system where just the idiots just get destroyed.
Well, and those people, they don't want to watch your video or then go into the comments and see stupidity. Like,
Right.
I see dumb comments and I get irritated. I'm just like, what? Why are you saying that? Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Or what are you talking about? Yeah, it's funny because there's so much tribalism in automotive culture. Like we talked about the positives, and obviously there's a lot, but I think one of the negatives is people identify so much with their cars, and they feel like they have to defend their purchase. It's like, oh, Zygrene said the second gen BRZ has an oiling problem. How dare he?
Yeah.
I've built my entire life around that car.
This is my identity. I've spent whatever, life savings on it.
Yeah, it's if people get weird. People really, really, really get weird. Okay, so this is a little bit more hypothetical, but we could do this a couple ways. I could limit you to 2 cars. Let's start with 2 cars. So the dream car garage, your forever garage. So like now until you die, you're limited to 2 cars. What are they?
So that means like they have to serve all my needs until I'm old. Like,
yes.
So track driving, everything. I would say until your old part, like don't worry about, being physical disailments or I can't get in out of the car. Put that aside. Let's assume you'll be like young and spry as you are until you're 95. 95. I'm trying to make it to 40.
Hey. The 40 life. The 40 life is rough. Never mind. All right. So yeah, you got 2 cars. None of them are a mobility scooter because you don't need it. You're young and spry. What are they?
Oh, 2 cars. That makes it so hard. 3 just makes it so much easier and it all comes down to because I plan to keep tracking until I physically can't anymore.
Okay.
And so like at least one of the cars has to be good on track.
Yeah.
Which makes it really hard because my favorite car to this day, even though it's not the best car, not the most expensive car, but it is the NSX, right? Just because the nostalgia factor, what it meant to me growing up, how I first learned about it in a PlayStation 2 game.
Yeah.
It's so important to me that I will do anything to keep mine running, right? Even though it serves no actual objective purpose outside of like just making me feel good.
Okay. And well, that's a pretty important purpose.
It's very important, but like it doesn't fit my actual needs. Like it's not a track car.
Yeah.
To make it a good track car is a stupid idea, in my opinion.
But does it make you feel good like the Auto Blow would have? Or
not that good.
Okay, close, but not.
Maybe 69% that
good. Sorry, kids, you can uncover your ears now. Like 10 minutes later. Sorry.
But because I have to hold on to that car, that's why it makes it so difficult to choose the other one.
Okay.
Because now I need a daily driver and a track car in one.
Okay, I'll give you an out in a second. But for now, it's 2 cars, man.
Okay.
Just 2 cars.
Oh, man. So I'm not planning to have kids.
Okay.
So that helps a lot.
Okay.
But I do have a dog. So
which is kind of like a kid.
Which is kind of like a kid.
Yeah.
Just a little bit furrier.
Depending on the
kid. But ideally, I would like something with a back seat.
Okay.
And so that rules out, your Caymans and whatever. This seems like a cop-out answer, but if I could make this work, an NSX and some form of GT3.
Ooh.
I actually would I think this might be one of the next cars I buy when I can justify it and afford it.
Yeah.
But a 991.2 GT3 manual.
Okay.
With the back seat put back in.
Okay.
But then you can't have the roll cage.
This is a tough one. Okay. All right. I'm going to have mercy on you. 3 cars.
3 cars. Okay. NSX.
Cars. Okay.
I think my track car. Oh God, this is hard. I think I would still go with a 991.2 GT3, but I would make it more hardcore. I would have the roll cage. I would ditch the carbon buckets because they're just not the right size or whatever for me.
Are they too big?
They're like a little bit too wide, but then
Okay.
also just really uncomfortable. Like,
I've heard that. Everyone just goes on and on and on. You got to get the carbon buckets, blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
And then a lot of people I've talked to said they're awful to sit in.
Yeah, I think because I've had the luxury of sitting in so many nice seats that I just don't think the carbon buckets are that good.
Okay.
Although if you do the reclining mod with the seat rail, because from the factory it's way too upright.
Okay.
And you
I've
can't
heard
adjust
that. And like track spec, I think makes brackets that tilt it further back.
Yeah, and if you put a helmet on, you're basically like that.
That was Fenton really forward.
Yeah, very forward. But yeah, I would modify it. I would put on some nice coilovers.
Okay.
You know, and that would be my driver car. Like,
Okay.
I would take it to the track, assuming I could afford, you know, everything that goes into that.
Okay.
And then I think my daily would have to be, I would want to go pretty practical.
Okay.
But it would still need to be a driver focused daily.
That's fair.
And the one that I've really liked in recent years, because I haven't driven a whole lot of like wagons or SUVs that are driver focused. The few that come to mind are like the X6M, which is a hideous vehicle.
I was gonna say that's not a looker.
I had one as a press car. It was like the driving dynamics in the canyons were phenomenal. It was unbelievably good. It felt like a big rear wheel drive car.
Really?
Yeah. But
okay.
Maybe like an X5M, just because it's like a much better looking version of that.
Yeah.
Or one car I really like is the Audi RS6 Avant.
RS6, yeah. Hugo and I talked about that as well. So maybe I'm the only psycho out there that's noticed this, but have you noticed when you see it on videos, when that thing accelerates, it lifts its nose super high.
Yeah.
What is up with that? It's so weird.
I guess the suspension's maybe just quite soft, but I have noticed that as well. But I will say, like, when I reviewed one, on the local canyon road that we've been on many times, and the driving dynamics were shockingly good. Like, that car to me, driving dynamics wise, is way above the BMW F90 M5.
Wow. Okay.
Better steering, more confidence inspiring in every way, better suspension. Obviously, and with the wagon, it's like you have the extra added weight, which should make it worse.
Oh, okay.
Versus the M5's a sedan, but it's
still
easily the better car.
That's one that I definitely continue to, Auto Tempest, RS6, cheapest.
Yeah.
And I think the cheapest ones I've seen are like mid 80s so far.
They're really
maybe
expensive.
To come down. Yeah, they're incredibly expensive. The new ones now sticker for what? I think 130?
Something like
it's
that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very good, and it's awesome that we got them, but Audi, like, please, although, well, the new A6, we won't talk about that. I would kill for the RS4. I would love that car.
I haven't driven a recent RS4. The only one I've driven actually is the B7 with the manual.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, the V8. Not a very good car.
No. I think I remember this review. Yes, I remember the B7 for sure. Okay.
But yeah, I think that would probably be my 3-car garage. But
okay,
like this could change on a whim, like by the minute. So, what is yours?
Oh, okay. It's I was actually surprised that you put NSX in your garage.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not. I know you like the car, but I think it says a lot that you've driven that many cars, and the NSX is still
there.
That high up in your mind. It's not because the NSX is not a great car, but I would just wonder if after time you're like, well, there's other things that displaced it. Mm-hmm. But the NSX really fits a very special place. And I think it speaks to people in a pretty unique way because it's not pure emotion. It's not like, well, I've got a 488 or a 458,
12 crazy, high revs.
Yeah. Or even like, a Testarossa or a 355. It's more rational than that.
Yeah.
But it's not less emotional.
Yes.
And like in my mind, I can make the math and the ease of living with an SX make a lot more sense than many other cars. Mm-hmm. It is a true exotic. I know people, oh, it's a Honda, it's a V6. Look, it's an exotic, all right? It's full aluminum.
Monocoque.
Yeah. It's like, dude, it's an exotic. That's not even a debate. But I think it's like, in a lot of ways, the most rational, but still equally emotional car in its class.
Yeah. I think a lot of people equate emotion with in terms of classic cars, emotion with like, it's quirky. Like the gearbox feels like dog shit until 5 minutes in.
You've got
emotion.
Yeah,
I'm pissed. Like, yeah, I guess I'm emotional.
I have to sit sideways. I have to, bend my knee behind my head to get in. It has to have terrible visibility, ergonomics.
I'm like, yeah, I guess that's emotion, but like, I just want a car that works, but still makes me feel good when I actually drive it.
Yeah.
And that's what the NSX does for me 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. I like that emotion that you feel doesn't have to be suffering. It can be just joy. And I feel like that's what the NSX brings to me. Similar to you, like the way I learned about the NSX when it first came out, my interest in it grew over time. It took forever for me to actually drive one. And the first one I drove was a very beat example in LA. They were near the bottom of their price point. And I got in and I learned to drive on a buddy's 80s Honda Accord. Shout out to Matt Harris, who really taught me how to drive manual. We used to drive down to Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. Anyway, I got in this NSX in LA and I was like, this is like driving an Accord.
Yeah.
Not in the way that it's like, oh, this is very pedestrian. It was in the way of how easy it was to drive, but it's still very exciting.
Yeah.
I think it's also a challenging car. Like, so I got my NSX back a couple of years ago after being away almost 3 years, and I can't freaking drive it. Like, I do not know how to drive it on track anymore. I have to relearn. It's just understeer steady. I'm not managing the weight the way I have to, but that's part of the challenge is you don't just get in. It's super easy.
Yeah.
So I think the NSX is totally understandable. It would be very hard for me to not have that car, but I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to do one where it's like, all right, let's just imagine the NSX is stored away somewhere and doesn't come in my garage. So a 2-car garage. First car, super easy. Miata.
It's always the answer.
Miata is literally always the answer. But it is in a lot of ways, it's the opposite of an exotic or the NSX. It's like, you don't need to worry about it. It is so damn fun. If you haven't driven a Miata, even on the street, like kind of quickly, like you need to experience it. It's just so much fun. And yeah, the ND2 stock rolls a little bit, but I've got coilovers on it, the upgraded brakes, the best brakes I've ever had in any car I've ever driven.
Yeah. StopTech, right? StopTech C43. I don't even know if you can get them anymore.
Yeah. StopTech.
That company issues done for.
Yeah. I don't, whoever bought them, I don't know what you're doing, but anyway, first car is Miata because it's super easy. I love how small it is. I actually love running errands in that car. There's nothing more fun than there's a lot of things more fun, but one of the funnest experiences, a Miata and auto blow
at the same time.
You're going to get into an accident. But top down in the Miata running errands is fun as hell. I like motorcycles, but I am too scared to own one and drive one on the street.
Same.
But it's about as close as you can get. It's small. Yeah, people don't see you much, but that's why you've got a very loud horn on it. It's a bright red color. Mm-hmm. Super fun. And it's very capable on track. You can beat on it all day. Very reliable.
Which I demonstrated to myself and to, I guess, the viewers with the recent ND2 I drove at Laguna.
Yes.
I was shaving tenths every lap after lap.
Yes.
No brake fade, no tires overheating, nothing.
Oh, it was amazing. I love that video. I mean, I love the Miata, but that video was like, yes, this is why, like, it wasn't vindication, but it was just like, I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. So, all right, it's my really, really long-winded answer of the first car. The second car, all right, if you have a Miata, you have to have something more practical. And I don't want to cheat. Actually, I won't cheat. A little bit of a cheat because it's not here, but Audi RS4 Avant. I think that's...
I guess you could import one someday.
Yeah, one day I could have it. I like the smaller size. I really dislike big cars.
Yeah.
And the Audi RS6, it's not the biggest car out there, but it's big.
Yeah.
And I really like the RS4 Avant more. And I wouldn't feel compelled to go like, oh, I want an M3 Touring because I have a very, very, very sporty car in the Miata. No, it's not going to drag races, but it is like, it's the definition. My God, I can't talk. It's the definition of sports car.
Yeah.
So I think that's my 2 car right there.
That's a really solid combo. Like, and they're both like, they're not like, oh yeah, I would have a McLaren F1 and a whatever, right? It's like they're rational, like reasonably priced.
Yes.
And like built well.
Yeah. Oh, extended warranty on the Audi as well.
Oh, for sure.
Because those things are just, they're not very reliable.
Yeah, they're not going to be reliable, but
I think that's my 2 car with a couple cheats in there that I've thrown in. But whatever. It's our conversation. We do whatever the heck we want. Okay, so this is one that I think you and I have talked about this in the past, and I'm sure a lot of people who follow you on YouTube are really interested in. So, and like I like to do, multi-part questions. So 1, why do you keep doing your channel? And then 2, where are you going to take it? Like, do you envision yourself quitting your full-time job one day? Will you, are we going to see like the car YouTuber equivalent of Mr. Beast one day? You're going to have candy bars, Zygrene bars in the local 7-Eleven. Zybar. It'll be car-shaped candy bars filled with peanut butter, chocolate, whatever.
Yeah.
So where do you want to go?
I don't know, man. Like right now I'm in autopilot.
Man, I shouldn't have brought up autopilot. It's been the theme.
It's a good question, and it's definitely one I should think more about for myself, because right now I don't have much time or mental capacity to actually be creative and think long term and think strategy.
Okay.
Because I'm just in full on execution mode in work and in life and in YouTube. Like, I'm just trying to get shit done.
Yeah.
60-hour work weeks, which I know like a lot of people work way more hours than that. But for me, it's like the amount of bullshit I have to deal with during those 60 hours, completely mentally draining, that by the time I'm off work, whether it's 5 p.m., 6 p.m., whatever, I need to spend some of that time on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, right? And for me, that means editing or coordinating and scheduling reviews for the weekend. I don't have time to be like, let's spend a few hours whiteboarding the future of Zygrene. Like, it's not an option. If I did that, I wouldn't be able to keep up the pace that I have right now. And maybe there is a world where I should give up some pace in order to think more strategy. But I've been doing this like 3 video a week thing for, I don't know how long. It might have been like 2 years at this point.
Yeah.
And I've seen not exponential growth, but like pretty linear, pretty solid growth ever since I started doing that. And I don't want to try to fix what's, not broken just yet.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does.
And it's for me, being strategic is harder than being execution focused, because I thrive on just like repeatability. And the more I do something over and over, the more I can get into this rhythm to where I'm not even really thinking about it too much, and it's not really all that stressful.
Yeah. I mean, 3 videos a week is a lot. Like I mentioned, I watch a lot of YouTube. Most people are on like a once a week cadence.
Right.
Sometimes less frequently. I think the other thing about YouTube is really interesting is it's becoming more like TV. Everyone is starting to go towards the same format of, I go out once a week and my video is somewhere between 18 and 24 minutes long.
Yeah.
Which is like broadcast TV.
Yeah.
Minus the commercials. So 3 times a week is aggressive, but how long does it take you to crank out a video? Like, I know it takes a lot of time to film it, but once you've got that footage in hand and you sit down to edit, pretty quick edit.
I mean, I can go through the work, like my average workflow for let's say a single car review.
Yeah.
Because I've got my filming thing down to a science.
Okay.
Like if I do it on my home road, the owner shows up at 7:45 in the morning. I film B-roll for 15 minutes. and I talk to the owner, get to know them, learn about the car a little bit, the quirks and whatever.
Yeah.
I drive it up the road, no cameras at this point. That takes about 20 minutes. Get to my location where I pull over. I spend like 15 seconds reading what I wrote about the car, the mods, whatever, the specs. Turn on the cameras, film a 3-minute intro, and then drive about 15 minutes spiritedly back down the road. So
damn.
All in all, for a single car, it takes me anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes to film.
Wow. Yeah, you do have that down to a process.
Yeah. And then the editing, you know, there's some other stuff I have to do, like uploading, putting in folders, whatever on my computer.
Yeah.
But once I actually open up Final Cut Pro, it probably takes me, for a single car review, like, I actually haven't timed it, but I'd be surprised if it took more than an hour and a half to crank out that whole video.
Okay.
Including like B-roll, overlaying, and all that stuff.
But that's a pretty big time commitment.
It's a decent time commitment, but yeah, like probably, 2 to 2.5 hours per video.
Okay.
So times 3. If they're all single car reviews, it would be like probably 7 to 8 hours. But because on Sundays, because typically Sundays is when viewership is higher, just weekends in general.
Oh.
I try to put out my comparisons on that day. So that means every week I try, and it doesn't always happen, but I try to have at least one comparison a week. And that obviously takes more time to film. You double the time for filming, and then the editing time, you probably go up like 50 to 75%. So
that's a lot.
Maybe I'm spending 9 to 10 hours a week just in terms of filming and editing.
Okay. When we were talking about kind of long-term where you want to go, I think it was maybe about a year ago, you had a really interesting video where you sat down with one of the folks from Savage Geese.
Oh, yeah, Jack.
Yeah, and he was super frank and open about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he even was thinking like, maybe I'll go back to corporate life, right?
Yeah. He was.
What were... I guess, what was the impact of that conversation on you and your thoughts about your YouTube channel? And did it change at all what your plans are, or not really? Cause you weren't planning on this being, not planning on being Mr. Beast.
Right. Actually, like talking to him more than anything, it just kind of reaffirmed my existing approach or thought, which is that I want to continue doing this for fun.
Okay.
I do not want to get to the point where I'm just doing this because I'm dependent on it to make a living. That doesn't mean I'm not taking a business mindset to it. Like, I do treat it as a business to some extent. So I am sometimes doing things when I don't really want to be doing it.
Yeah.
But overall, I still enjoy it. Overall, it's a net huge impact, like positive impact to my life. Right.
Okay.
But when I talked to Jack, he was like, dude, between him and Mark, they're putting in insane hours. They're traveling all the time, which they don't particularly like to do. And because they're known for high production quality, their camera gear takes like 2 or 3 full size like luggages just to haul around.
Jeez. Okay.
When I film, it's like literally one carry-on small roller and my backpack. And I can film like, I filmed 16 cars over 2 days with just that.
Dang. Right? Okay.
But it's gotten to the point where they're just like, yeah, it's not really that fun. And a lot of the cars they drive, the ones that get a lot of views, are like non-enthusiast cars.
Oh, that's not what I would expect.
I mean, I've seen it on my own channel as well. Like my Mazda CX-50 videos, and I forget, like some other CUVs and whatnot. They sometimes pop off.
Why? Do you know?
Because
do you think people are hoping that they're fun to drive?
My non-subscribers find those.
Oh, okay.
It's like the algorithm just picks up on it because it's a hot topic.
Gotcha.
And then, it gets a lot of views from non-subscribers. So I think for Mark and Jack, they probably, if I had to guess, a good chunk of their subscribers, or at least their returning viewers, probably aren't hardcore driving enthusiasts.
Okay.
They kind of cater to both sides, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
It works for them. But they personally, it seems like they couldn't really care less about those types of cars in terms of like actually enjoying the process of filming videos about it.
It's maybe more a business decision.
Yeah.
To include those.
Yeah.
Huh. That's really interesting. Okay. So there are a couple things that I wanted to kind of wrap up questions. So in the years you've been doing YouTube, curious about one of the low points, like maybe what's your lowest low point, whether it was stress or you had a breakdown or something happened. And then also, like, what would you say is your high point so far in your YouTube career?
I don't think I've had any real low points, to be honest.
Okay.
Which is
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Like, I haven't had any points where I'm like, oh man, I probably should just stop doing this.
Okay.
Like, that thought has never crossed my mind.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are like points where I'm just like kind of burnt out a bit, but usually it's not because I'm actually burnt out from the YouTube thing. It's just because other stuff in my life is taking priority, or like oftentimes against my will, right? Like sometimes I'm working crazy hours and it just sucks and I can't dedicate any time to YouTube. So I'm like, man, I don't really want to do YouTube this week.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of high points, anytime I drive a car that I'm just super stoked to drive, obviously, or if I make like a lifetime friend through it, those are the high points. And I haven't had a ton of those like lifelong friend meeting opportunities, but enough to where I'm like, I want to repeat that.
Yeah.
And I think in the past couple of years, one thing that I've really enjoyed doing more is not just driving 30 minutes to my local road and whatever, doing cars there, but traveling, because car culture changes a lot depending on where you are.
Yeah.
But everyone still shares a similar passion. It's just that they have a slightly different background for it. And so like I got to go to Vancouver last year.
Oh, cool.
It was a solo trip. Well, I went with Jess, but the filming part was solo. And I reviewed something like maybe like 9 or 10 cars in a day. And that was really cool. Even though the road conditions were terrible, there were a ton of tourists that day, didn't really get any really good footage. But just like seeing the car culture there, meeting the owners, the enthusiasts, was really cool. One of them was an NSX. There were 2 NSXs that day, but one was like a Sebring Silver. It had the Mag Blue T37s.
Oh, yeah,
it's
your
like
twin.
Thousands of miles away. Someone has a very similar car to me.
Yeah.
And it was just cool. It's just really cool. And then like also getting to experience the culture of that city outside of cars, like getting to experience the food, the weather, the scenery, the outdoors. That part is really cool. And I want to do more of that. So anytime I have an opportunity to travel to review cars, I try to plan that out in advance. So I have this, Google Keep. It's like an app that like not a lot of people use.
Yeah.
But it's so simple, which is why I like it.
Yeah.
But I have this checklist where every time someone reaches out through email or Instagram or whatever, who has a cool car that they want me to review, I add it to that list and I'll mention their location. And so when I build up enough cars from one location, it's like I can justify a trip.
That's cool.
So I have a few, I would say, that are now in not Vancouver. Oh my God, I'm so bad at geography. What's the other state?
Toronto? Oh, Toronto. Yeah.
I've never been, right? So that would be really cool.
Okay.
I think there's like an NSX up there. There's a few other cars. And then there's a few cars near Denver.
Okay.
Including like K-swapped like NA Miata or NB Miata or something.
Oh, nice.
And I happen to be going to Denver for a wedding in like November.
Okay.
But it's like, I'm not sure how the weather's going to be there.
Yeah, it might be snowy.
So I'm going to keep an eye on it. But if I can make that trip work where I can also film, weather permitting, I'm definitely going to do that.
Isn't it funny that one of the high points of doing this YouTube thing that centers around cars is the people. I find that as well. Obviously, on a different scale, I'm not necessarily traveling just to do car stuff. But when I do go somewhere, I like to tap into the car culture as much as I can. We did that when we went to Japan, which was absolutely amazing. Yeah. By the way, if you you did a video, we didn't just go on the trip. But you actually did a video. It's a few years old now, but if you go onto your channel and you look for,
what was it called?
So we went for Tokyo Auto Salon. So I think if you search for Zygrene Japan or Zygrene Tokyo Auto Salon, you'll see that video, and it was pretty cool. I've actually rewatched it a few times because it reminds me of that trip.
Yeah.
But even
first time in Tokyo, NSX owners experienced JDM life.
Boom.
It's got no views, but it was really fun.
It was fun being there. But even locally, I don't go to a lot of meets, but it's so fun when I go to meets where you see people they haven't seen in years. You see what they're doing car wise. I don't think of cars in isolation. I think of them in terms of who owns them or the history of the friends who've owned them.
Right.
It's just such a weird and interesting thing. But yeah, when you go overseas and we're in Daikoku parking area and huge language barrier, but we had dudes showing us around their NSXs and GTRs and stuff, and they knew we appreciated what they had, and then we were pulling up pictures of our cars like they were our kids, and they were like, "Ooh, NSX, very rich,
very rich,
very rich."
When we bought them, they were at the low point.
Oh yeah, I got mine for way cheaper than a Civic or anything. But I think it's fascinating, that connection. I know that theme pops up again.
That's a good point, because from my experience, there's two different ways to enjoy cars. Well, probably more ways, but to break it down simply, it's the cars and the people together.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it, because you form that connection, that owner and that car, and then it just becomes imprinted in my mind.
Yes.
They have such a strong connection to each other, so I kind of think of them as one unit.
Yep.
Especially when you own a car for a long, long time. And then there's polar opposite for me, which is press cars. They're brand new cars, just some random journalists have been beating on it. I'm treating it as objectively as possible, and there's no kind of emotional attachment or personal side to it.
Yeah.
But they're both enjoyable.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny you bring that up. I was going to joke and say, well, the CEO of Aston Martin, when you've got that Aston Martin, you have a connection with him, right? But you don't. But that does lead me to a question I've been dying to ask you. And I think it was one of the first ones on the list is, so in the auto industry today, what either individual, group of individuals, or company really embodies what you like in cars today? Who's doing it right now?
Ooh. This is probably a cop-out answer. And granted, take all of this with a grain of salt, because I'm not super close to the industry. Okay. I don't work closely with manufacturers.
Yeah.
Yes, I get press cars, but it's a very transactional thing.
Yeah.
I'm not like Savage Geese or whoever, who gets to visit the factories and talk to the engineers, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But just objectively speaking, in terms of their products, their marketing, and the actual community of owners and enthusiasts that they have built, either intentionally or unintentionally, around their products.
Yeah.
Right now, I think it's got to be Porsche.
Ooh.
And it's it's not really black and white. There is a side of Porsche that I'm you guys are doing this for the wrong reason. At least in my opinion, the wrong reason, which is you guys you have a lot of money, so you have a relationship with your local dealers, and they'll sell you the latest and greatest RS at MSRP or 25K above, which is ridiculous to say, but that's a very small markup on an RS car.
Yeah.
You're buying it and you're flipping it, making profit, whatever, right? That is not what I would ever do as a car enthusiast. But there's the other side, which is the true enthusiasts who they're buying used cars, or they're, maybe they're buying new RSs as well. I know some people who do that and have let me drive them, and they're doing it because the products are just so good.
Yeah.
There's so little to complain about. Like I reviewed a Boxster GTS 4.0 this morning. And that's not the greatest example because like I've driven so many Porsches now, and anything below an RS or at least a GT car is typically just not quite razor edge enough for me. But my conclusion in that video was basically like, there is nothing bad about this car, like almost nothing. Like the gearing is a little long, whatever. Everything else about this car is like borderline perfect. And that describes almost every Porsche right now.
Wow.
And for the past 20 years, maybe. The reason I say 20
crazy.
is because like the 997.1 ended about 20 years ago.
You're sponsored by Porsche, just so everyone knows.
I wish.
It's a collaboration between Porsche and Autoblow. And they're writing you big checks. No, I think that's one, it's not surprising. But I think it's also interesting that you point out like, hey, not everything is great with Porsche right now.
Yeah.
Like there's some things around Porsche culture and enthusiast culture that to some people are off-putting, other people love it. Cool, do your thing.
Yeah.
But I'm in the same camp as you. I'm not a snobby car dude.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying Porsche is a snobby brand. I'm saying there's aspects of Porsche ownership that are snobby.
Right.
But that applies to almost any brand. Like there's aspects of Mazda ownership that might be snobby.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to knock anybody in particular brand.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's an interesting answer though, but it's also in some ways it's also not surprising because you're right.
Not even slightly.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of good things.
They're
doing
somehow
a lot of things
keeping like the analog feeling cars alive when everyone else is like trying to move away from that.
Yeah.
How they're making 4-liter naturally aspirated 9,000 RPM flat six engines like EU compliant and whatnot is beyond me.
Yeah.
Like
it's impressive.
How are they making that work?
It's impressive. And it's not like they're not like a boutique like Pagani. Like
Right.
they're churning out thousands of cars. They're doing this at scale.
Right.
And they're doing it. They're putting and I guess this is actually to the heart of the question is they're putting the effort and the money and the resources towards things that you and I value.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic that it's still even happening at all. They could very easily just go, sorry, too hard. We're going to do 2-liter
turbos. A great
turbos.
example of that right now is the new 992.2 GT3, right? Because the emissions regulations are getting stricter.
Yeah.
And Andreas Prenninger and team, like they still went through the engineering effort to take that 4-liter naturally aspirated engine from the last gen .1.
Yeah.
And they did their homework and they made it compliant at the expense of, they had to give up some torque.
Yeah.
But it's still a 9,000 RPM screamer that makes over 500 horsepower. So like they had to concede some things here and there, and he was quite open about it in like some of the interviews he did.
Yeah.
But who else is still giving us that?
Not many. No, it's definitely a dying breed. And I think in the past couple of years, you've seen EV sales not doing quite what people in the industry wanted.
Yeah.
But before that, everybody was like, oh, we're going to go all EV by 2027.
Right.
We're going to turn on a dime. And only now are people going, we might need to backpedal that a little bit. But you're right. The fact that they're doing 9,000 RPM motors that are NA and compliant is amazing.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more questions, and I swear that I will let you go and actually have dinner. But all right, so one of the most used terms that you hear among car fans today, analog.
Yes.
Analog.
Yeah.
Give me the analog. You hear that like analog heroes, analog feel, modern analog, old school analog. It's analog. What does that word mean to you? When you say that, like, what does that mean to you?
I think it depends on context, but it's a really good question. And I don't have a very like straightforward answer to this.
Yeah.
So I think whenever I use the word analog, or at least when I try to do this when I use the word analog, is I try to explain the context in which I'm saying this is analog. Because analog is a relative term.
Yeah.
Right? In 100 years, Hyundai Ioniq 5 probably is going to feel analog, right? But
that's a really
now,
good point.
it's the most digital thing out there, maybe.
Yeah.
But like if I'm reviewing two cars in a comparison and one has a manual and one has an automatic, obviously the manual is more analog.
Yeah.
Or if one has hydraulic steering, one has EPS, one's going to be more analog. So I think it's all about context, but I use the term to describe something that just it's a relic of something that no longer really exists, at least in a mass market kind of way.
Yeah.
Which by definition means it's like a little bit more special than what you can get now.
I was thinking about what that term means to me as you're answering. And I think you're on point saying it's relative, because when it came out, the R35 GTR
Oh, that's such a good example.
was not considered analog.
Yeah.
But now, and it was also considered a massively overweight pig of a car.
Yeah. Digital computers.
It drives itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might as well put on cruise control. Now, in comparison, that's pretty dang analog.
I've driven 3 examples now. And granted, they've all been like earlier model years, like between like 2011, 2014, something like that.
Okay.
But they are so analog, like relative to what you can buy now. Like what the one comparison I did where I was like, this is an incredibly old school feeling car, was comparing that, because on paper, right, it's a 3,800 pound car with a transaxle, front engine, all wheel drive, rear biased, with an automatic transmission. How can you find another car, right, that's similar to that in modern day terms? And that would be the G82 M4 Comp.
Oh, wow.
Also all-wheel drive, automatic, turbocharged, front engine, rear biased.
That's another crazy Zygrene comparison right there.
And I did that comparison, and I went into that, not really any expectations, but the R35, the steering feel, the suspension, even the brake feel, because I think it's just like, because the BMW is brake by wire, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
I could be wrong about that.
Okay.
But either way, that car is very numb compared to the R35. And even like the way the R35 handles coming out of corners, it feels like a big front engine rear wheel drive car that will still step out on throttle, but it just gives you that little bit more traction from the front.
Okay.
So that you don't just immediately like do a 180, right?
Okay.
But like, yeah, like drive that car now compared to any new car, and you'll be like, this is so raw and so analog.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think that's hilarious. It's very true. You don't have to go back to like a first gen NSX. Like analog is relative. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my last question. Aside from this guy named Zygrene on YouTube, who else do you like to really watch on YouTube? Who are your favorite? And let's avoid, all sorts of other topics, but like for car YouTubers, who do you like to watch? Who do you enjoy checking out?
I think nowadays, because this has changed over the years.
Okay.
I used to love watching Evo videos. Unfortunately, nowadays, I don't have like a subscription to their magazine or whatever, but like you've sent me, screenshots of it before.
Yeah.
I really enjoy reading it.
Yeah.
But their YouTube channel, hate to say it, it's no longer something I like to watch.
I'm with you.
It's gotten a little too drab. Like
those guys can write rings around almost any other automotive journalist.
And they're great drivers.
Fantastic drivers. But like, and I say this with love. I jokingly refer to, again, Evo as the Bible. Like I love that magazine, the content, but the videos, like maybe they need someone else to stand up for the videos, because there's not a lot of energy from the people on camera.
Right.
And it feels like you're listening to poetry.
Yeah, it's like I actually want some substance. Like I get it's artistic and whatnot, but I also want some substance, and I don't really get that.
Yeah, like how many slow motion videos of a car drifting through, some random pass in Italy, like can I watch over and over. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, it's beautiful. And then I think the hushed, revered tones that they use, like, the 911 GT3 navigates corners
That's so accurate.
beautifully.
I'm just like, is my phone just too low, or do I need to really blast this? And then I'll like switch to like a Throttle House video and blow my damn eardrums out.
So, the deft manner in which one can apply throttle and maintain traction
Yeah.
is delectable.
Look, I love those guys, but I agree they need a little bit more energy.
Yeah. I will read anything they write. They could write children's books, and I would read them. I would buy them hardcover copies, but the videos need some work. I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not Evo's not at top of your list
no
anymore.
longer, unfortunately. I really like Throttle House.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about them because
Okay.
I think they're like James and Thomas have incredible chemistry.
They do.
Every time I open the comment section on their videos, it's like these guys are the next Top Gear. They've surpassed Top Gear, whatever. Which I wholeheartedly agree with. Their skits in the beginning are hilarious.
Absolutely hilarious.
Thomas is a great driver as well. I think James has improved a lot over the years as well.
Yeah, he seems to be a better driver than he used to be.
He's like holding drifts and stuff, which is really fun to see. But to me, Throttle House is more on the side of entertainment versus substance.
Okay.
And so sometimes I like that, but sometimes I just want just information, right? And for information, I think Savage Geese does a really good job. That goes without saying. That's why a lot of people watch them, right?
Yeah.
They have their own humor too, but it's a lot more like dry, almost like self-deprecating humor at times. And then who else? Chris Harris on Cars. You know, he's always been a staple, you know, for as long as I know there was a hiatus.
Yeah.
You know, but
I like the length of his videos and the straightforward. They actually, I think they're similar to your videos. It's like, I'm just going to get in it.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about, you know, making it look like a Jerry Bruckheimer film.
Yeah.
It's straightforward me driving. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's just a straight dope.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. It's really good. Low production quality nowadays. I know he used to have the really high production stuff with like Neil. Which there's I have a lot of fondness for that as well. But if he can continue churning out the current type of videos that he's doing, more power to him.
Yeah.
Who else? There's some channels where I'm just like, I want to like this, but I'm just like asleep like 30 seconds in. There's one British channel. Oh my gosh, I forget which one. Is it Auto
Car
or Auto Express? I forget. I get them. I get the two confused.
I do too, as well. I think Autocar puts out more content. I'll watch it sometimes for just a straightforward review, but not as engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's... Oh, I know we've talked about JM in the past.
Oh.
And I don't watch everything he puts out, but again, like, your content and his are similar in that he'll drive almost anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of cars that are oddball out of the mainstream. And then he'll be like, what's it like to live with the last gen Jaguar XJ as a daily? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm genuinely interested in that, actually.
Yeah.
So it's entertaining. He's got a very unique and interesting kind of manner of speaking. It kind of reminds me of Jeremy Clarkson. And I think it's entertaining, but maybe not for everybody.
Yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of his channel, to be honest, because I think he probably appeals more to the type of person who is interested in quirky cars or like ownership, like experiences and whatnot.
Yeah,
less about like the nuances of driving it really hard.
Yeah,
I get that that's a niche, and that's like what I'm most interested in.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, Harry Metcalf, I like a lot.
Oh yeah.
Even though he's not like absolutely ripping it in his videos either, there's something about the British voice, man. It just gets me.
Well, he also is like, I'll drive pretty much everything. I know most of what he reviews tends to be on the higher end of the price scale, but I think the thing I love about that guy is he's a man of means, but he's also genuinely a car enthusiast, not for the status, but for driving enjoyment.
Yes.
I mean, founder of Evo for a reason, right?
Right. He's like, he is someone who like you want to aspire to be because like he's obviously very successful in his career.
Yeah.
And financially, but at the same time, you could easily see yourself having a conversation with him just talking about cars.
Yeah.
So it's like relatable, but also aspirational at the same time.
Yeah. And I, avoiding, I'm going to risk repetition here, but I mentioned this to Hugo as well. And I think I told you, I met him.
Oh, really?
At the 1 year I went to the Quail.
Nice.
And he was on the Jaguar stand because he was consulting with them for the special vehicle stuff that they were doing. And I ended up talking with him for, I think, like 15 minutes.
Nice.
And we were just talking about cars. We talked about Evo and Drive Tribe and all that kind of stuff. And that's exactly the impression. I was like, I don't think he cares at all about the pomp and circumstance. He just wants to talk about cars.
Yeah.
And any car. He doesn't. So it was really cool. Like I did not fit in that crowd at all. And we ended up chatting for 15 minutes. And I don't think a lot of people there knew who he was. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. You founded Evo.
Yeah.
You wrote the Bible.
Yeah. Right? That's hilarious. Yeah.
So that's all right. So those are kind of some of your top YouTubers that you listen to. Are you like, are you listen to YouTube or consume content on YouTube a lot?
Yes. I mean, with the time that I do have during the week, it's typically because I usually work out in the morning, actually.
Okay.
So when I work out, I typically will listen to YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I actually bought YouTube Premium just for that reason, so I can have my phone like screen off and still listen.
Nice.
But that's how I consume car content for the most part. And then, interestingly enough, like in the evening after work is done, I still watch YouTube, but I tend to not watch as much car content. It's more like other random stuff, like food related stuff, MMA related stuff, arm wrestling. I've been watching a lot of arm wrestling, even though like I don't know a single person who's even remotely interested, and I've never arm wrestled in my life.
Is that why you're in the gym? Is like you're going to start arm wrestling?
Yeah, I wish my joints would explode immediately.
That is fascinating. Like I don't think I know anyone else who watches arm wrestling.
Yeah.
Other than like random clips that show up on Facebook.
Right.
Garbage like that. So you have other hobbies other than cars?
They're not even hobbies. I just like watching.
Just random stuff.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, speaking of random stuff, you've been listening to random stuff. This is part 2 of 2 that we're wrapping up our interview with Fenton, aka Zygrene. Thank you so much, man. Like, we've been friends for a long time. We've done a lot of fun stuff together. I am so excited that I got to ask you this stuff and share it with people, especially your audience, which is just a little bit bigger than mine.
Just a little.
Just a little. So yeah, thank you so much for sitting with me for 2 hours to talk about all things YouTube. We do this anyway.
Yeah.
Usually it's standing in front of my garage, freezing my ass off. So at least now we're seated and the heat's on. But this is awesome. These are things that I've always wanted to know. I think they're probably things that your audience and people who are into cars in general are interested in hearing. The life of a car YouTuber is pretty unique. There's 1,000,001 car YouTubers out there. I think everyone wants to be the next Top Gear or the next Throttle House, as it were. But you've carved yourself a really interesting niche. And judging by the comments in your videos, people really like what you do.
It's kind of crazy. Like sometimes I pinch myself, and not like because I'm making bank from it, because I'm not, clearly. But it's just like really cool that I can just fully enjoy my passion for myself, and in the process not only pay for the hobby, but also like influence other people to make buying decisions, or to build a car in a certain way, or to learn about driving dynamics, or whatever it may be. It's just really, really cool, and I'm very thankful for that.
I think it's really amazing because it's educational for people, but they also connect with what you do. They identify with this as a hobby, as a passion. I also think it's really cool that you're not doing it for money. You do this whether you get paid $1 billion or $0, and I think that shows through. And I think your audience probably picks up on that too.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, so folks, continue to support Zygrene. Subscribe to him. You're like right at 60,000. The content is fantastic. If you haven't watched it before, you absolutely should. Although you probably came to this channel from Zygrene versus the other way around. So, do check him out. Check out some of the videos that we've talked about. And I would say thanks again for coming on.
It's my pleasure. I think some of the questions you asked honestly made me think strategically, tactically, self-critically. Like it's pretty crazy. Like the amount of just like brain power I had to use for this.
So it's time for a nap, is what
it's
you're
time
saying.
for a nap. But it's been a pleasure. I think, if I'm back on the podcast sometime in the future, I'd love to learn more about your car journey. I know you shared it.
Yeah.
But I'd like to dive into some of the
for sure
the details as well.
No, I'd love to. And I think there's so much to talk about. Like we haven't even really talked about modifications and track driving. I think there's non-YouTube stuff that we definitely need to cover. So you'll be back for sure.
Awesome.
And I know where you live. So once again, Zygrene on YouTube. Thanks for listening to us. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, you can obviously hit up Fenton via his Zygrene YouTube channel, as well as on Instagram. And for the show, no particular place to go. You can reach us at info@nppptg.com. You'll definitely see Fenton on the show again. And of course, Hugo will be back on the next episode. So thanks so much for joining us and have a good night.
And make sure you subscribe.
Yes, please do. All right. Take care, everybody.